camera's going here now. My name is Philip Mills. I'm a 31-year-old individual who has been living in Florida since late 2016. The economic impact that I have witnessed had to do primarily, just ignore the performance issue aspect, it's recording just fine. It was primarily from witnessing, what they call mottled ducks, which are native to Florida, that have been hybrid crossed, bred for humans for hunting, and we're talking quite a ways back, to be specific. So let's get down to the facts. If you're a resident of Florida and you live, whether you're in the north or the south, this issue concerns you, okay? You. I am your candidate who is trying to spread and pass a legal, safety, humane law, or an ordinance, or for that matter, a regulation of awareness with the power and the voices of many, of all of you who are watching this. I want you to make this decision. I have done my research firsthand. I have seen and observed the impacts that Muscovy Ducks, commonly known as Cairina Moschata, I think that's the right way to say that. I haven't actually done that online, but we're going to do that right now and make sure I said that right, because even I am prone to make mistakes. So, Cairina Moschata. That's Cairina Moschata. And the right way to pronounce it, pronunciation. There you go. There's pronunciation. We'll have nothing that gives you a direct point, but they do have it here. It literally says what vocab? What? I'm a little confused. I guess this thing doesn't actually. Wait, is that the play button?
Cairina Moschata.
Cairina Moschata. Cairina Moschata. Okay. Anyway, simply put, and most relevantly here, we're getting into a topic that is extremely important. Okay, so in my last video, I went over how there is invasive species in Florida. I'm concerned about this because I live here now, and there should be people worried about this for their great-grandkids and grandchildren, since people before didn't take much concern into this. And it was people who are behind this. People are usually at fault for everything. And here's something you can be a part of that you don't have to be at fault for, but you are responsible for making the right decision. And why is this a right decision? Because it protects Muscovy ducks, and it stops abuse and mistreatment of these birds. I firsthand know in my HOA, I'm powerless. I have no say-so. My HOA controls what goes and what doesn't go in these lands or in this territory. Even on the very land that I own of my own property, I have no say-so on what happens with wildlife, or even for myself trying to step into a matter of an issue that I was pulled into due to ignorance and refusal to listen. I myself voiced my concern and complaint along with other neighbors in my area. Not going to mention the neighborhood. I'm not trying to bring any shame to my own HOA, but this is a message to get awareness out to everybody else. You may have lived here in Florida longer than me. I'm 31 years old. I've only been in here since 2016, but here's the core root of the problem. People don't want to talk about this issue. They want to defend it. They want to fight for it, whether it's keeping the ducks here, Muscovies, or chasing them away and getting rid of them. And the question isn't about it actually getting done. It's about the voices of the many people who aren't standing up and saying something about this. I've seen posts and petitions, and I'm wrongfully pushed to this level of a double standard for the Muscovy duck, mainly because I'm not a fanatic or a lover. I'm a human being who is more of an, a humanitarian, but also an animal lover in that passionate sense of understanding when animals deserve to be treated equally and fairly. It's the same thing that any other organization out there like PETA or animal groups activists that aren't associated with PETA, because PETA is a little bit more extreme. They don't really necessarily get anything done because they'll rant and ramble. They'll cause a lot of political problems, humiliation posts, paparazzi in terms of news, and people harassing other people that get reported for doing harmful or wrongful acts or unlawful acts. And my point is, you often vote for somebody to run the country, you vote for somebody to run as mayor, run as your constituency in your city, your sheriff. But what about animals? Don't they deserve a human to stand up for them too? And I'm not saying for myself I want to be that one person, but I want to be the person that leads you into making that a possibility in Florida. And it starts right here in Brevard County, starting with Space Coast in Melbourne. These ducks are freely feral. That means they are wild, they have no control, there is no one watching them, and you have a gray area, which means you'll have people that love them, and you have people that don't love them, whether that's hatred or dislike, however they may treat them, chase them, kick them, throw things at them, try to hit them with their car on purpose. This was already done in the west coast part of Florida. You can look up news reports of mistreatment to Muscovy ducks, horrible crimes against Muscovy ducks, animal cruelty acts, and then even people that have done great things for them, like build sanctuaries, like a woman down in Sebastian or further south from where I'm at. That is north, that is south from where I'm at. Over here is west, and that is east. My house faces north, so that's the way I look at this. But, in this directional issue, this is how simple this matter is. It's about understanding the negative impacts of Muscovy ducks and why they need to have some form of protection, or for that matter, to make matters even better for those who are animal lovers and even those who are not a big fan of Muscovy ducks in this sense, by saying that they're not fans of Muscovies, but they're still animal lovers. They don't want any animal to be harmed. I'm fully behind this. I want humane capture by net capture, using a net gun, using CO2 cartridge, and a safety net to trap the animal, put a blanket over it, put it in a cage or crate to be transported to animal sanctuary, a safe home or relocation farm that specializes in caring for these animals, where their wings would be clipped in the sense of where they cannot no longer fly, and or committed to a promise that that person would have a permit as legally law-abiding as Florida law permits, since the statute in Florida does actually only allow someone to own a Muscovy duck in their caretaking and ownership if they have a Class 3 permit. It's because this duck is not native to Florida. It came from South America and Mexico back in 1758 by Carl Linneaus, if I'm saying that right. And double checking. There's another notification. Somebody likes my post that I made on a Muscovy Duck lover post page, which now I'm trying to get this a little bit broader. You as residents here in Florida have seen these ducks. If you don't know what they look like, the males have a red bump on the front of their beak and nose, orange face color, all black, all the way down through their neck. And then it's a black body with a white or white and black spotted, but black is more dominant. Females can generally tend to be a little bit less black or all black. Males have the emerald green coloring on the back of their feathers toward the tip of their tail. Both sexes have long, elongated tails, webbed feet with claws on the bottom of their feet, which are very powerful and very strong. So if you're trying to grab them or catch them, they kick with their feet as their defense tactic and use their wings to get a predator or someone trying to, grapple or handle them in a way that they don't like off of them. Now, what is my issue with these ducks? I firsthand know as a knowledge that these ducks have integrated and devastated my local pond area, where they once were inhabited by the mottled duck, which is the brown spotted duck. That duck has been decimated from countless ignorance and neglect from people. And I'm talking about not so much primarily on this topic just the Muscovy, but the mottled duck, which is shown here. So the mottled duck, the native one, is this beautiful species breed here in Florida. And this duck has been wrongfully and inundated in many ways by people's impact, using them by crossbreeding, hybrid crossbreeding, or by hunting for generally for hunting purposes. You will not even see a brown spotted duck with this color anymore because of what people have done to the species in itself by crossbreeding them with other types of ducks, other mallards, and primarily the mallard duck, which is the one with the green neck, which almost reminds you of, basically this guy right here. They are aggressive breeders, as I have been well informed from my state representative who I've spoken to that handles this in that particular department. Now, these ducks are damaging the malted duck now. The Muscovy duck is displacing the entire ecosystem of the malted duck. The malted duck is native to Florida, the Muscovy is not, and the mallard is in its own classification, but unfortunately is getting out of control. Now, the sad news I've come to find is mallards have got to be sterilized, or more or less not sterilized. That might help some form for those who get out of control. I should reword this. They're supposed to be euthanized. Sterilized would be a little bit more positive, but I was just informed that they're supposed to be sterilized. Euthanized. Apologies, I make mistakes. Main gist of this is to really adamantly fight for the rights of Muscovy ducks to better be protected, where they will no longer be able to be feral and should no longer be allowed to loosely roam and inundate waterways, aquatic ways with their poop, excessive populations that grow out of control in HOA areas where there is a huge gray area of a double standard where HOAs don't want to deal with the problem. It costs too much money for them to deal with. It's a human animal rights activist issue, and they don't want to get involved. So it takes votes. It takes your vote from a house. You don't even have to leave the house. You don't have to do anything other than get on your computer, basically get on your smartphone, tablet, whatever you can to access the web, find the page to cast your vote, to put in a vote, to say that you do endorse the proper care and treatment of Muscovy ducks to be properly managed and regulated so that they are no longer growing out of control, causing inundated damages to the rest of Florida's aqueducts, ponds, lakes, and streams, man-made included, with all the poop and the population, excessive out of control population numbers that get into an unbearable level in terms of people that have their problems dealing with all their poop over their HOAs, their sidewalks, in their neighborhoods, in their apartment complexes, in their private homes, on their driveways, in their porches, in the apartment complexes, you name it. You're talking about Muscovy ducks. They tend to sit and nest and camp. They grow and breed, and they don't slow down and they don't stop. So my issue is to bring before this to Brevard County to ask the residents here of any age who is a homeowner, who is a resident here, who has the right to vote, even if you're younger and you care about these ducks. This is not a political issue. This is an animal crisis issue. And I'm asking for you, your family, to look into this matter, do your research, where Muscovy ducks came from, problems they cause for Florida. Check out the state and Florida wildlife website. Apart from my slip-up slur errors, you could call them typo errors of my own mouth, misinterpreting what's supposed to happen to mallards, this main focus is on Muscovy ducks. Mallards are a different issue all the same. I want to fight for the rights and protection to better treat and put in those regulations for Muscovy ducks so that there is no more of this mistreatment, misinformation, and wrongful actions taken upon certain cases that have happened in Florida where people are outraged by certain HOAs that took it upon themselves to hire a wildlife trapper that came in and shot and killed these Muscovy ducks when in fact they could have been captured humanely and relocated to a safe home or safe place where they could have lived out the rest of their days and stopped becoming a part of that problem, which of course you can look it up yourself. There's plenty of cases out there. And for some cases where these extreme situations have gotten into effect where someone actually called a wildlife trapper, they are actually forced to have to do humane euthanization. I've also been told this, because guess what? I also opted to become an animal wildlife trapper for waterfowl and waterfowl only for this exact reason, and the reason why, I was moved by the injury and inflicted wounds that have occurred with Muscovy ducks, namely to a mother and her ducklings earlier this year, and I could do nothing to help them as I watched the animals suffer. I watched for over 2.5 months without being able to do anything. My own HOA did not want me getting involved and did not offer me any assistance. I called a wildlife trapper here locally, not going to name a name, took my money and didn't help me at all with the problem. And even though he told me it was his obligation to take care of the animal knowing it was injured, there was no answer to my cries for help for this animal in its injury. And I had to step up and do something. I lost my job due to COVID, not because I myself got sick. As a driving instructor, as I formerly was, I care for the well-being of my students, and now I'm passing that down to the welfare and well-being of animals out there in the wild, namely Muscovy ducks and the other animals in the aquatic life and aquatic life of waterfowl that are deeply affected from this overpopulation issue, which does occur more often than not. You'll hear people argue and dispute and say there is no overpopulation problem. This is true in some areas, but other areas, it's a growing problem. It may not be in your area, but think about your neighbor and those who are affected by these issues, and they don't appreciate knowing that there are others who don't want to take care of this problem. That is why there's so much mistreatment, misguided information, and wrongdoing happening in this matter. It's because people don't want to work with this situation. They don't want to deal with it. And if you think about it, that's kind of why we're having problems in our country right now. On a separate note, up there in Washington, but we're talking about down here in Florida, protecting your sunshine state, your animals, your rights as an American citizen here, caring about the welfare and well-being of Florida natural native wildlife. The state doesn't want these ducks loose on the run. They want these ducks controlled, and they prefer there's somebody who can step up to the plate and do something about it, even though they're not asking for it. I'm saying I'm willing to do it, and I'm asking for your vote, your sponsorship, and your belief that we can do something to stop the abuse, the misinformation, and the mistreatment of Muscovy ducks. I totally stand behind taking a humane and non-lethal method of capturing and caring for the rehoming and relocation of all adult Muscovies. Baby ducks won't be able to be saved because they can't be contacted by humans. It will be very difficult to really save them. but we have to save the adults and prevent them from this problem ever growing, which is not only harming Florida's environment, it's bad for Muscovy Duck's future to keep growing in an area where a lot of people don't want them as much as the ones who do. There is an outweighing problem and it's ever growing. Yes, there are other issues facing the state of Florida with an invasive species. Muscovy ducks are no different in their own class. They are a problem for water life and aquatic life, water life. When you talk about Burmese pythons, they are affecting the southern part of Florida. Muscovy ducks, if they were so, gullible to get eaten up and the problem wouldn't be a problem in the south, trust me, they wouldn't be so plentiful down there. They've learned probably more than most ducks how to learn to avoid deadly killer snakes like Burmese pythons. But we're talking about Muscovy ducks, so I ask you to stand with me and work with me on this issue as I'm just starting off trying to get into this, to get a voice out there and get this problem heard. I want these animals to be safely relocated, advocating for that, and to be caught and captured and put into a safety area where they can live out the remainder of their days and no longer cause a problem with overpopulation numbers that do result in HOA areas where these ducks will find themselves comfortably able to grow and grow out of control. And then you have human crisis issues where people get so frustrated with the ducks they don't take the proper steps to make sure they're properly cared for because namely, there are so limited resources to handle them when they get out of control. And that is why wildlife trappers are stuck right in the middle, unfortunately, having to do the most harshest thing of all, and that's having to put an animal down. And there really isn't a lot of other options. So I'm trying to be the other option to this problem. I'm trying to bring sense to the table. To people who love Muscovies and to people who don't, we can come together on this. This is not hard. Thank you so much for listening to what I had to say. And once again, as an honorary mention between the mallard, the brown spotted duck, which I would say the malted duck, and of course, last and finally, the Muscovy duck. Thank you so much for listening to everything I had to say. Greatly appreciate that, and I'll leave you with that. Thank you.